What's up, man? You've been sitting here a while. Go ahead, let me see your ID. I hear you, officer. I'm not providing ID. There's no reason for that. Well, we got a call. You've been here too long. Sitting in a diner isn't illegal. If you want me to leave, I'll leave. No, you're not leaving until we know who you are. I'm standing up and walking out. Cuff him. Before we jump into this, quick pre-story note. This is one of those situations that sounds almost ridiculous at first, until you realize how dangerous ridiculous becomes when it's backed by a badge. And the scariest part? If one small detail hadn't been in place, this story would have ended very differently. So picture this. Antonio Smith is sitting alone in a booth at a quiet neighborhood diner. The kind of place that feels frozen in time. Clean windows, soft conversation, silverware clinking against plates. The kind of diner where people like to believe nothing bad ever happens, because nothing bad ever happens to them. Antonio isn't causing a scene. He's not loud. He's not bothering anyone. He's just sitting there, calmly looking over the menu. Then two uniformed officers walk in. Officer Ryan Keller takes the lead. Officer Johnny Briggs hangs back, just half a step, angled, ready, watching Antonio like he's waiting for the wrong move. Keller starts casual, friendly even, that practiced tone officers use when they want things to feel relaxed, but only on their terms. He says they got a call. Someone complained Antonio had been sitting there too long. At first, Keller says about an hour. Then he corrects himself. Closer to 90 minutes. He frames it like that detail matters, like there's some invisible time limit on occupying a diner booth. Then his tone shifts. The friendliness tightens into authority. He says they can't have that in this community. And that's when Keller does what officers often do when they want control of the moment. He doesn't ask for ID. He demands it. Slowly, hand it to Briggs. No sudden movements. Antonio stays calm. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't posture. He doesn't perform anger so they can justify what comes next. He simply says he's not providing ID. And that one sentence changes everything. Keller treats the refusal like a crime by itself, like declining to help them build a case is the same as committing one. He starts talking about how this could turn into something else. How they're going to identify Antonio one way or another. Briggs stays quiet, but he leans in just a little more. Antonio doesn't argue law textbooks. He doesn't insult them. He repeats himself calmly. He understands what Keller is saying. He's still not handing over ID. And suddenly, the air in the diner changes. People keep eating. Plates keep moving. But heads turn. Eyes linger. That uncomfortable curiosity creeps in. The kind that silently asks, what did he do to deserve this? Before we go further, drop where you're watching from. City, state, country. And if you like stories where calm wins over power plays, hit like and subscribe. Because this one is about staying steady while someone tries to bait you into becoming the problem. Now back to it. Antonio had walked into that diner like any other customer. No attitude, no scene. He picked a booth where he could see the room. Intentional, but not suspicious. He was polite with staff. Thanked them like he meant it. And diners like this, people sit for hours. Coffee refills, laptops. No one calls the police for that. But Antonio is black. And in this diner, comfort works like a private membership. The look started subtle. A man staring too long. A server hesitating. A woman glancing over, then snapping her eyes back to her phone. Antonio doesn't react. He doesn't give anyone an excuse. When Keller says 90 minutes, Antonio doesn't deny it. He doesn't explain. He lets the fact sit there. Keller builds the story anyway. People are irritated. Antonio isn't ordering. Antonio is bothering customers. Then Keller gives the command. Antonio any. EDS to leave. Antonio doesn't move, but he doesn't stiffen either. He calmly says he understands. And then, almost like the officers aren't even there, Antonio starts talking about food. Not sarcastically, not loud, just thinking out loud. Avocado toast, beef stroganoff, grilled salmon. That's when Keller starts losing patience. Antonio isn't afraid. He isn't angry. He isn't complying. So Keller tightens the leash with threats. Downtown, charges, identification one way or another. Antonio doesn't flinch. Briggs shifts his weight, the silent signal. He's the consequence. Keller stops persuading and switches to command. Cuff him. Antonio slides out of the booth, calm, controlled. He turns his shoulders away. His body language says, fine. You want me gone? I'm leaving. That should have ended it. But it doesn't. Briggs grabs him anyway. Antonio doesn't swing. Doesn't resist. His hands stay visible. His face stays calm. But Briggs holds him, because the decision was already made. And immediately Briggs searches him. Not a safety pat-down. Not explained. Hands straight into pockets. And there it is. Antonio's ID. The second Keller sees it, his energy changes. Antonio isn't anonymous anymore. Keller's shoulders relax. They got what they wanted. But Antonio's expression changes. Not to fear or anger, but something colder. Like someone watching another person step into a trap. Antonio calmly implies he isn't just some random guy. He implies he's federal. That he was working something that required anonymity. That forcing his identification in public may have compromised an operation. Then he adds the detail that freezes Keller for just a split second. The encounter is recorded. Keller hesitates. Briggs loosens his grip, not out of kindness, but uncertainty. And now, Antonio takes control. He asks for names, badge numbers, incident reports, body cam procedures, supervisor contact information. Not yelling, not posturing, just documentation. And suddenly, Keller and Briggs aren't in charge anymore. They don't apologize. They get careful. Because officers don't fear confrontation. They fear paper trails. Antonio keeps it factual. A call about sitting too long. A demand for ID without a crime. Detention while trying to leave. A pocket search to force identification. No speeches. No theatrics. Just facts. The officers eventually back off. Not because they respect his rights, but because the ground beneath them shifted. Antonio leaves and immediately starts the paper trail. Formal complaints, body cam requests, incident reports, oversight channels, legal contacts. The diner has cameras. The officers have cameras. Antonio has his own recording. Weeks later, the outcome comes quietly. Both officers are fired, not suspended, not retrained. Fired, because comfort isn't law, sitting isn't a crime, and refusing to comply isn't probable cause. Antonio didn't win by getting loud. He won by staying calm, by refusing to be baited, by demanding documentation like it mattered, because it did. So let me ask you, if you were sitting there, would you have stayed that composed? Or would their pressure have pulled you into the reaction they were hoping for? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who needs it. And subscribe for more stories where accountability shows up and dignity wins.